high alloy steels. What is meant by high alloy? High alloy means whenever we are adding in steel material, the alloy elements more than one element we are adding. Whenever we are adding more than one element, called as alloys, alloy steels. The element may be a sulfur, or it may be it may be like as a magnesium or nickel or chromium or tungsten, vanadium, anything. If you are adding more than one element, it is become as an alloy. High alloy means whenever you are adding the alloys, the sum of the weight percentages is greater than 10 percentage, then we call as a high alloy steels. Even we have steel materials like as low carbon, medium and high carbon steels. The engineers are turned their research to found and to develop new a combinational set in the steels. Why they are required means because they think about to improve its properties. It may be improve the strength, or it may be hardenability, or it may be like as a pressure resistance, corrosiveness, and it may increase about the toughness, or sometimes the improvement required about the application of the environment. So depending upon all these things, they think they work out which are suitable combinational set. Those are about high alloy. Now in a few minutes we'll talk about whenever these elements we are added in steel, what properties are going to affect and why it is. These things we'll talk. The first of all, the sulfur. Whenever the alloy sulfur is added in steel, what will happen? The sulfur, sulfur is a brittle nature. So the sulfur, when you mix it in the steel, later the material also become as a brittleness. It losing about its ductility property. But the sulfur, which is a very rough and rugged, that is why it improves the machinability. Machinability means with the help of lathe machines or any drilling operations, and you want to make it a product, the machining capabilities. Some materials are there very soft, so when the tool is hitting, there is no chip formation. It is bent or it may be like sagging, that those things are happening. But it has a good machinability means it will be simply chip out. So to improve this machinability, the sulfur will be added, but it has a drawback. It is about improves the brittleness. To reduce that burn, we added with a manganese. And the very interesting thing is how much content. If you say 100% quantity will be there, the sulfur we are adding only 0.08, 0.15. That is the maximum percentage. Beyond that, it is no use for the combination of sulfur. So less amount, it makes this much of changes in their property. And this sulfur, which is called as pre-cutting edges, which are represented with double one double X. That means in a steel materials, when you observe the standardized as per American Society of Material Testing (ASMI), the testing were giving about the 4-digit combination set in steels. The first 11 indicates the steel with having the sulfur. Another 2 X's indicates about the number, which indicates the importance about the other mixing alloy elements. Similarly, when we add the nickel, what will happen? It improves its stability and its toughness, and its strength is increased. Why? Because the nickel reacts with the carbides will form. The nickel makes very hard, and it may be like as a series about 3, 30, 31, 32, 33. And having the nickel. Here the interesting thing is nickel not alone, the chromium also we are mixing. The chromium, if you are controlling about only less amount like a 0.7, 0.5 and 1.5 percentage, that is comes under the nickel category. If the more chromium we are added, that is about another steels which is called as chromium steels. So you have to remember only to improve about its toughness and strength and hardness, the nickel alloy element we are adding in the steels. Now what I mentioned, the chromium. So it is not usually just saying about 2%. The 2% of chromium, definitely it is increase about its hardness and strength, and also increase the corrosion resistance. That is why the most of the applications which are using at the seashore, these elements we are using. The stainless steels. Or at your kitchens or in the restaurants, whatever the spoons and containers, dishes are there, those are made up of stainless steel. That's why it is very shiny, and moreover, there is no rust formation. And here there is only mentioned 2%, but practically in the case of stainless steel, it is about 9 to 25% of chromium we can add. These are available in the series 5, 6 and 41 series, which is called as a chromium alloys or chromium steels or chromium vanadium steels and chromium molybdenum steels. Similarly, we have improved about the hardness and strength. We are using about the molybdenum combination set, but the main purpose is about to increase about its creep resistance. And already we discussed about the properties, what is meant by hardness, what is meant by strength, what is meant by emissionability. Once you know all those things, then only you will understand about these things, what is meant by creep resistance. To improve that one, molybdenum helps. The next, vanadium and tungsten. Particularly this combinational set we are using in a tool steel, where it is percentage will be added only 0.03 to 0.25%. It is increase its strength. But vanadium has a good nature, but the strength is increasing without changing the property of ductility. It is not like that one. Every element has its own property. It is not affected by the other property. It is not like that. Some effect will be there. In this case, vanadium, we are improving about its strength, but ductility has no. That is the significance we found about whenever the vanadium is added. Similarly, the tungstens also we are added, because the tungsten itself is an art, and the tungsten and carbon is a mixed. The carbides are developed, tungsten carbide, which is the hardest one materials among all the steels. So that is why this combination set we are using in the tool steels. The tool, because the tool is very required strong. Now the alloy elements is so far the alloy elements are there, but it is not need to go for depth. It is simply the primary idea about talking all these things is the steels means don't think about alone about iron and carbon. There are some more combination of alloy elements are added. That is the first part you have to come on. The second part, those percentages is very less amount, less than 1%. 0.25, 0.5 or 0.3 or maximum is that one. That much of small amount of elements are added, so much of properties are going to be affected. The third most important part, whenever you are added, that microstructure is going to change. And when you are adding, these are adding in the liquid molten state, that's why the structure is going to be affected. To broadly understand about all the alloy elements, then this one diagram helps to remember in that manner. What is that means? The graphite, first one is a carbide formation, the graphitization. Carbide is very strong, whereas graphite, which is soft one, and austenite and ferrite, these are the two phases which are formed in the steel materials. Austenite is stronger, whereas ferrite is weaker. The ferrite is having the atomic arrangement in a body center structure or body center cubic structure, BCC, whereas austenite is an abscissa structures. So these are developed in the microstructure. Why? Because the microstructure decides the property. The microstructure is nothing but how these alloy elements are occupying and position changing. Iron and carbon is there. Where the carbon is positioned, how the carbon atoms are positioned, how it is how it is reacts, and how the structure is developed. Just keep in mind, you studied all these small concepts in 12th standard. Here we are not talking much depth about, but giving a primary idea how the properties are affected about these things. Now in the carbide, when you are adding about the chromium, tungsten, titanium, vanadium, molybdenum, manganese, all these group improves about the carbide property. Whereas if you add silicon, cobalt, aluminium and nickel, it is about the graphitization, become as a beads. And similarly, manganese nickel, which improves about the austenation stabilizer, that means austenation form, which is stronger than the ferrite, that structure is developed by adding these things. Whereas other category, the ferrite stabilizer, if you want to require the ferrite state, this one. Now before going to that one, all these combination set, that means I know what is steel. I know steel types. I know what are the alloy steels and what properties are improved by adding alloy. Now what is the benefit I am gaining? Means it's simple. If you are working in a one particular project, it requires some material. Now, how much strength is required? How much, if say, we are working in a seashore. In a seashore, the material is every time is exposed to the, exposed to the environment of seawater. So seawater more salt content, chloride content is not there. When the iron will be reacted, the steel is reacted, there is a possibility to form weak, or the rust will form and material become as a weak. So you know what is the environment, but you know what is the purpose. So you think. If you want to require a development of one component or one body, it may be anything, maybe automobile or components or anything. If that component is working in Canada, the Canada, in particularly in winter season, the temperature is very less. In Toronto, you may get it as a temperature in negatives about minus 20 degrees. In that environment, that material is able to withstand or not. So, what is the working environment temperatures and what is our component? What properties gives about good stability? According to that one, you decide these steps. So that is why you have to know what is elements you have to add, how you do it. So here the same thing what I was mentioning about the alloy elements, the same thing in the plot diagram I am just describing here, the same. Now the two more steels we will talk, and after that we will talk about the cast irons. The two steels are about the tool steel, another one is about the stainless steel. The tool steels, which are nothing but when we tool which is much stronger and harder than the work part and have to require good impact toughness and wear resistance. What means whenever you hit it about the hammer with on the work part also a metal one. Whenever you hit it with the hammer get any impressions, then hammer is weak. The tool is much stronger. There is no impact on that. There is no impressions during the impact on the hammer. The impact and the energy transfers and bend, impressions, everything happen onto the work part. But because the work tool is must be strong, and those things is nothing but types tool steels. Similarly, another category is their high speed steel. The hardness and strength evaluated at particular temperatures you have to maintain. But because whenever the working condition, the temperatures are increased, particularly if you say drilling. In a drill bit is there, the drill bit, whenever the drill bit is working on a metal plate, by rotating about, making a small hole, if you touch, after removing the drill bit, and if you touch that portion, either drill tool or work part, there is a more hard condition. Why? Because the metal is contact and its rubbing actions happen and metal is removed. During that hot condition, the metal is become as weak. Then what will happen? Definitely is going to break. That's why the high-speed tool is maintained particularly suitable in hot work conditions. It is not going to affect it. And those series will be called as M series and T series, which are available in the market. You can directly approach in that way to find what are the tools steels and high-speed steels. Now here, when I said about the series, M series and T series, and these are the drill bits what you are seeing about, which comes under M series. In your daily life, or maybe in workshops or some shops, you seen about this one, very hard and strong. These are made up of steel, but around normal steel, it is a tool steel. In case of M series, is a 10% of molybdenum is added, whereas in T series, the 12 to 18% of tungsten is added. Just now I mentioned in the alloy steels, we are adding this composition, beryllium, molybdenum and tungsten. This improves about the hardness and strength and toughness. That is why we are using these steels in a case of development or manufacturing of the tool bits. Maybe chisel or maybe screwdriver or maybe screwdriver tip or maybe another drilling wheels like that. Now so far we are talking about the steels. So before I am going to talking about the cast iron, just I am reminding you, the steels have three types. The steel is nothing but iron and carbon. The carbon percentage is only having about up to 2.1 percentage of carbon is only present. 0% of carbon is not called steel. More than 2, it is not called steel. In the steels, there are mainly three types are there based on the carbon: low carbon, medium carbon, and high carbon steels. Now we are talking about the cast irons. Where the carbon content is more than 2 to 6.67 percentage, all are comes under the cast iron. But the commercial usage, the value is only about either 4.5 or maybe up to 4 percentage approximately. The more than 4.5 to up to 6.6 we call as a cast iron, but commercially we can't get it the suitable application of that combination set. So here in the cast irons, generally we are improving to improve the castability property. A silicon will be added, and that is about 1%. In steels, we will not add much. It is only up to 0.25. Maximum is 2.5. But in cast iron, the percentage will be very high. And here the phase diagram. The phase diagram means if you observe about any material, the material will look like as similarly with naked eye, like a straw or some color, grayish color. But if you go for the optical microscope, to look at about how the grains are positioned, what is the structure, what is this orientation, what shape it is there, what element it is, it decides the property. One more time I will repeat. So I am repeating here. The microstructure which was observed through optical microscope to examine about the grains and grain positions, its orientation, its structure and its material. These elements decides the property of one compound or one material. So here the temperature and composition differ in the case of iron and carbon diagram, that is why it is varies. And here, compared to steel, the cast iron, the melting point temperature is varies around from the 1150 degrees to 1400 degrees centigrade. This cast iron has some properties like as low shrinkage, easy to missionable, low impact resistance, and low ductility. And quite opposite to the steel properties. Just as we talked earlier, just reminding about this. Why low ductility? Because of more carbon presence. So anyhow, we will go for very quickly. So the next coming few slides, we will talk about the 4 to 5 cast irons along with the microstructure to visualize how it will look like and what is the properties. The first one, gray cast iron. The name itself is mentioned as a gray. That means it appears as a gray color and the microstructure will be visible like this one. And whatever if you observe the microstructure, how to read about the diagram means, we read the diagram in two ways, in two parts, only two parts. There is two portions are there, the bright portion and the dark portion. How the bright and the dark portions are presented, how much portion is occupied, what is the structure of that one, and what is the bright portion and what is the dark portion. These are the points that are required to describe that one. So before going to talk about the diagram, we just talk about the information what is here. The carbon content is only from 2.5 to 4% of carbon is mixed in case of grey cast iron. And the carbon which is there, which is in the form of a graphite flakes. It is a flake. And this diagram was showing about the two-dimensional one. That's why it is simply like as a curved path lines. And the black portion we call as a graphite element. And this graphite makes about the brittle nature, but it is randomly distributed into the surfaces. The carbon is in the graphite. And this makes about capable to improve the storage. That is why it has a good impact resistance and a good vibration absorption capability. That is why in the engine blocks or in the it may be motors are there, the cast iron blocks we are keeping. Why? Because whatever the vibrations are there, that vibration will be absorbed by the cast iron and make it to stay. These graphites are helps to able to absorb, and it is more stronger under the compression. And as I mentioned, excellent vibration damping capacity will be there. The wear resistance will be high and there is a high fluidity. All these things are happening. And with the help of this one, we are using as a pressure vessels and clutch plates and other structural parts. In the case of machines, we are using about the great cast iron. You will get more idea when you compare these cast irons with other cast irons. Ductile cast iron. We call it SG. SG means spheroidal grey cast iron also. We call it as spheroidal. What is spheroidal? The spheroidal means the spherical shape. Whatever the carbon is represented in the cast iron, it is in the circular, nodular. So it is there. How it is formed means whenever you added in the cast irons about the magnesium or beryllium, magnesium or beryllium we added, it will mix it with that one. Instead of earlier it is like as a flex in case of grey cast iron, but here if you observe it is become as a spheroidal shapes. That is about the ductile iron. The property is nodular. The matrix, of course, the matrix is about other than bright portion we are talking. It is about the perlite and maybe ferrite combination. No need to know about all these things, but you know about when you are overly talking about the cast iron, you just get some idea and know Okay, castanets are these types. These elements makes about this combination, and the diagram will be like this. And the next one about the two more castanets we are showing about the microstructural observation. One is about white castanet, another one is about magnetic castanets. The microstructure when you observe, that means if you imagine the four diagrams what I showed about the nodular, gray castanet, these things. Where you will apply this diagram? By looking in the optical microscope. When looking in the optical microscope, the arrangement is different, the portion of the arrangement and distribution is different, the orientation of the graphite or carbon is different, the size and shape of carbon is different, that's why it is a different material. In case of white castanet, that the carbon is only 1.8 to 3.2 percentages and it is very hard and brittle. Among all the castanets, white castanet is more strong. It has more cement type, that is the reason this became as more cement. In case of malleable castanet, the malleable means we are heating. Already one castanet is obtained, otherwise I can say the white castanet, whatever it is there, we are heated about 800 to 900 degrees centigrade and we release to cool, then whatever the castanet is obtained, that is called malleable castanet. Here the graphite is in the form of rosettes. It is distributed. For that purpose, we are heating is applied. So here the castanets we talk here about that it is a more compressive strength, it is a brittle in nature, it is good for observing the vibrations and all those things. And the castanets are white, malleable, and ductile. We call it SG, nodular castanet and pure castanet. Once you completed about this one, in the brief talk, we'll go for the next topic about the non-ferrous alloys. Till so far, we talked about only the ferrous alloys. Those are about steels and the castanets. In the steels, we talked about three types. In the castanets, we just overviewly covered about various types, about 3 to 4. Now, in a few minutes, we will pay attention on non-ferrous alloys, which are other than steels and graphite. Nothing but these are like aluminum, copper, titanium, and very small ones. The copper alloys, it may be brass and bronze, and the aluminum copper alloys, we will talk about those. And aluminum alloy, which has the densities, and we are using about the spacecraft structure, but because it is less impact. The refractory materials, it may be niobium, molybdenum, tungsten, and tantalum, Ta. And magnesium alloys. That means the list is very big and vast about the non-ferrous category, but we are limited to talk about these things. And with much more idea about the non-ferrous material, each material, its existence, its property, its metal properties, and with application, we'll talk much more in the next sections. But here I am just giving about the details about only one or two. So why the non-ferrous are required? Already we have steel materials. Why non-ferrous? Of course, among all the properties, because it's lightweight, it is oxidation resistant, high temperature property, corrosion resistant, it is a biocompact. Biocompatibility means in human bodies, whenever some hand or leg was broken, the screws, the metal plates was inserted in the human flesh, human body, and that is not reacts with the metal. If it reacts, even though there is no such a problem. So what material is recommended about in the implantation in the human body with the material? Those are non-ferrous materials. And they are both about the electrical and the thermal conductivity. So these properties makes the engineers to think about other than steel materials. Those are fulfilled by the non-ferrous. And one of the key points about the being recommended in the non-ferrous, it is because of cost. The cost is some materials, the cost is much less. So these are the reasons why we are preferring about the non-ferrous materials. Copper, how it will look like? The copper we are talking about now at few minutes. The copper, which is a good conductor, which is appear as a reddish color, this is the copper how it will appear. And in the case of in a boiler or it may be like as in heaters, the copper plates was fixed like this. The plates that I got. These are conductors, good conductor of electricity. What is the properties of copper? So we are not talking much about, we are talking in the first year, much paying attention on two materials. One is copper, another one is aluminum. The aluminum we will talk later. We will talk about copper at first. The copper, which has a good electrical conductivity, and next to silver. Next to silver means the silver is the highest conductor of electrical conductivity among all the elements. and after that the copper is occupies. It has good thermal conductivity, it is easy and good excellent about the transfer of heat along the point. And that is the reason we are using about in the exchangers and boiler parts. It has a good ductility and has a malleability property. That is why it is good ductility property, it is making it within metallic rods. So what are the transmission lines in some category of cables we are using about the copper alone. The ductility properties are there and good for electricity passages. And it has good corrosion resistance. It is no, there is, you will never see, or it is very difficult to find about the copper has formed as a rust. It will not form. Even it is a dipped into water for a long time period also, it is not form any corrosion. And moreover, it is non-magnetic in nature. These things makes into you applicable. That means you just when you're talking about the copper, you are familiar about that copper. You will use that copper, you know that copper. But at that point, you have to expose a more number of parts where you are using, how it is exist, how it will get, how we are, where you are, what applications we are using, how it will be react to the other environment, what is its reacts. When you know all these things, these are nothing but its nature and characteristics of the copper. The copper alloys may be combinations like it may be brass, quartz, or it may be called as a copper nickel and a nickel silver. The brass each is about copper and zinc, the 70% copper and 30% of zinc is there in the case of brasses. In the bronze, it is about another combination, it may be like as a SNA or SiP. So this combination makes about the bronze material. The bronze will be quartz. So these are the examples: copper nickel, the copper and nickel, nickel silver, which is a copper, nickel, and a zinc combination set is involved. These are alloys. We call it what are the copper alloys? That means these are the copper alloys. What are the trumpet and what are the bronze and what are the applications we see about here? All these are made up of one particular type of copper alloy. And a nickel silver, which is also called as a German silver and new silver. You just keep in mind about this one. And it is used for the saxophones and clarinet. In that application, we are using about the nickel silver, where it is a nickel silver, also of course German, we call it as German silver, which is the alloy of the copper itself. Combination of nickel and zinc will be present. Now we'll talk about briefly a few parts about the brass. The copper and the zinc, as already mentioned, it is approximately 39%, and the zinc is about 450 melting point temperature, gives, or otherwise the application property in particular range gives varieties. Another elements we can add it as alloy elements, I already mentioned nickel, magnesium, aluminum. And commercial usage is divided into two parts based on this microstructure, which is called as hyperperitic, called as a alpha type. Another one is alpha plus beta type. What do you mean by alpha and alpha and beta type means? It is a microstructural information. If you want to decide the properties of any material, we are just going through observing about the microstructure. The microstructure, one arrangement, one orientation will be there. That is called as one name. So in the solidity, everything is why it is having different frames means it is happened during the solidification. What do you mean by solidification? We are taking the liquid molten metal and we heat it. It is become as a molten condition. In the molten condition to the solid condition, that means conversion of liquid phase to the solid phase, how it is converted. It is not like as a magic to convert the liquid molten metal to convert directly as a solid. Some phases are there, some transformations are there. Those transformations will be taken into the cone. During the cone, what phase will come first? What came first? What are the intermediate phases are present? Those things were given as names as per the Greek letters alpha, beta, gamma, like that. Some combination intermixed thoroughly, those are alpha plus beta phases are there. So if any material, even in the steels also, if you want to calculate about the decide the properties, how the engineers have decided the properties, all these things means one of the approaches by looking the microstructure and study of phase diagrams. Now here also the copper, which are showing about the alpha plus beta phases. And here we don't know why, because in the first year point of view we are restricting ourselves. We are giving a wide variety of materials as per the real application and its properties. That is why we are not going much there to show about its microphase diagrams, microstructures. Simply, If you are talking about one material, what is its application, what is its property, and what are its nature of existence. Just applications. So all these musical instruments and all these materials, if you say the yellow, two types of brasses when it's talking about yellow brass and the red brass. The red brass are using about making about the musical instruments things, and the yellow brass we are using for making of some valves, the boilers and all those things, passage of a steam or any chemical solution. Those things is made up of these valves, the brass valves. Why? Because it is not from any rust. Next one, the bronze, which is a copper and a tin resin, which is represented. The bronze, which has increased the strength significantly, but the ductility will be very less. That's why the limitations also will be very, very less, and it is about copper and tin, the bronze. So here, that maybe we don't go much, but the different types of bronzes are there: silver bronze, aluminium, beryllium bronze. The main, whenever reading here, you think about, okay, if you say aluminium bronze, the bronze already we know about it is a copper, right? That is a copper and tin. Copper and the copper and tin, the Cu and Sn. Now, if you say aluminium bronze means plus addition of aluminium you are adding as alloy. The beryllium you are adding in the case of beryllium bronzes. So you have to keep in mind. I am not talking much, but I talk only about the tin bronze, and I will close about this copper bronze. So here, whenever we are adding about the copper and the tin, Sn, the bronzes, we are adding about the other alloy elements like as 10% of copper, 1.25 to 10% of tin, and up to 1.1% of phosphorus. This makes about different types of process. And this phosphorus is acting as a deoxidizing agent to improve the castability property. Right? So these things, that means each alloy element, when you mixing about in particular condition, then its properties will be either enhanced or it will decrease. If it is enhanced, that properties are taken into the account, and we are making a suitable component which are suitable in that environment, in that conditions. These are the examples about the tin bronzes, which is called as a bell metal. So in the competition, the examination, they will ask you mostly about this bell metal. What is the bell metal? So these are the examples which are made up of a wheel and a lever. All these comes under this. So finally, I am going to summarizing about what we are talking about so far. It is about the classification of the metals. We are talking about the ferrous to non-ferrous, metal, non-metal, ferrous and non-ferrous, organic and inorganic. All this we are divided as per engineering aspects. And we are talking about what is the raw materials we are using, which is about the coal, limestone, and about iron ore. These are the raw materials mainly used in the case of steel production, and how it is happened. We talk. The steel's classification we talked, which is about the ferrous combination set, low and medium and high carbon steels, and its application we already discussed. And why the alloys are required, why the alloy steels are required, what are the alloys we are adding, for what property it is going to be affected. And we also talked about the tool steel and stainless steels, and we talked about the cast irons and types. And we also talked non-ferrous, particularly about copper and its alloys, which just pay some attention. From all these things, I add one more word about this one. In engineering materials, it is a very combinations are very widely available. If you want to decide what property, that is the major role about as engineering. To know about that one, you have to know two things. One is about what is meant by properties, the properties of mechanical, electrical, and its physical and another properties. And once another one is about its composition percentages and its phase diagrams. Once these two things, phase diagram is microstructural information. Once you know these two things, then you have a better idea and a better grip. You decided for the right application, for what is the right combination material in your requirement. So thank you guys for watching all these things. If you have any questions, and feel free to contact me through this mail kpc_make@vignan.ac.in.